Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Gathering Place, brought to you by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And I'm Marilyn Hemingway, your host. And today is Second Sunday Small Business Sunday, which we do every second Sunday. We bring on a member of the Gullah Geechee Chamber, a small business within the Gullah Geechee community that's doing the work. And we are delighted to bring on our next guest, regarding A Taste of Gullah, and she's going to talk about her business, how long she's been in business, and of course, take your questions and just get to know her. Giovanni Richardson, we will meet right after this opening.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you learn it all.
And people are
Good question. And we're back. Remember, folks, to drop your questions in the comment section. And if you're watching us on YouTube, or go to YouTube and make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel, a Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, A Gathering Place, because we want to build up our YouTube audience. And also, we're on LinkedIn. We are excited to be on LinkedIn now, going live, so we get to share, especially on second Sundays with our small businesses, but every Wednesday and Sunday at 4 o'clock, we get to share the news from A Gathering Place. So let's, without further ado, bring on our special guest, Miss Giovanni Richardson. Hey, how are you?
Hey. Thank you for having me, inviting me on and bringing A Taste of Gullah to the light. And I just wanted to say I am very appreciative of the Chamber of Commerce and what you're doing and how you're getting out there. So good luck.
Oh, thank you. We are appreciative of you coming on because, as you know, we're looking at 2023. There's a lot that's going to be happening, starting to feature our small businesses, which we've always tried to do. But with the launch of the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail website in 2023, it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of our small businesses and a lot of the Gullah Geechee Chamber members to tap into a global audience. So we certainly hope that you will be a part of that and you'll be hearing more. We actually have selected our logo, and so we're just ready to kind of announce that and just get people started to get excited about 2023. But we're delighted to have you here, Giovanni. And I'm going to go ahead and share your website so we can start talking about Taste of Gullah, voted Charleston's best Gullah experience. And y'all, I'm going to put the website address at the bottom of the screen so y'all can go right now to tasteofgullah.com and see what is for sale. And of course, we want you to buy it. We want y'all to buy and support our small businesses, but we want y'all to be customers. Giovanni, we have you here. I want to know, how did this get started? Tell us a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur and small business owner.
Okay. Well, I came out of entrepreneur background. My family has always been doing small things. I've been in business for years. I have over 35 years of business experience. I got into small events like planning events. I just thought weddings, things like that was very good. I moved out of the country. When I came back to Charleston, I realized that the Gullah Geechee culture was being infiltrated and people they were using Gullah Geechee items, but they didn't know that it was Gullah Geechee products, So my thing was to get into the lecture part and to teach people a little bit history, because history and tolerance is very important when it comes down to culture. However, the people weren't very open-minded. So in my marketing mind, my thing was, if you create the events, then people become more open, which is why the food, the Gullah Gumbo food entrepreneurs area began, is because most people are interested in the food, but they're not really tolerable to the culture. So we have to teach people food and tolerance at the same time. And so that's one of the things that we do. But my biggest thing is events planning. So we have to plan these events, to help the Gullah Geechee people, the culture to survive and to be. You have a lot of people coming in. They want to do the crab boils, but they don't really know about the history of the crab boils. They want to do have red rice, but they don't really know about the history. That's where I come in. My business actually talks about not just the oral history of the culture, but we talk about the spiritual, the medicinal health, as well as the food. So it kind of breaks down in four compartments. And
I
a taste of Gullah is basically like an umbrella, and each of those compartments actually can become their own individual business, and it becomes a genre in itself. One of the things that we do is we try to create products for each of the businesses. For example, in the food business, when we tie the African culture into the Gullah Geechee culture, a lot of times people forget the Native American culture. And one of the main things we have to do is create products. So I create things like mustard sauce. For example, this is a picture of your mustard sauce. It ties into a lot of the native culture. Um, when you talk about the sauces, the hot sauces, we all get into going and get your Texas Pete. But most people don't realize that hot sauces and spicy sauces have been being created long before Texas Pete got a patent to patronize hot sauce. So I teach people how to make their own hot sauce. I make hot sauce. So I just want everybody to know we have these products naturally here, and we just need to know what they are. So we go back and we find and do the research for the recipes, and then we create them so that we can bring them out to the people, because my goal is to teach the history and to teach tolerance through foods as well as through events. Our main thing is our special events. Now, we got closed down basically for about 2 years because of COVID, and the history that was surrounding that is the government made some, stipulations. And so what we had to do is we shut down for a couple of years so that they can get everything taken care of. A lot of the ordinances and laws change the aspect of having us do events where we can't teach people. So we went into the school system. So we started teaching people through history, through the schools. And now we're back out and open. So 2023, our calendar events will be going on. So we'll have our beer and wine, which is with the crab boil festival coming up. We'll have our conch stew festival coming up. We'll have, these different things that goes on inside the Gullah Geechee culture that most people aren't aware of. But you have a lot of people who are jumping in to these markets but have no idea. So we want to bring them the truth and the history of the culture. So that's what we do, is we teach history and culture through food, arts, and culture.
Very good. I'm glad you said all of that, because it is so true that our food is not just something that we eat. It's embedded how we prepare the food, how we spice the food, the history of the food, how we tell our stories, and the culture itself. It's just embedded in the food. You can't separate these two things. So I think you touched on a little bit cultural appropriation. Um, is a lot that has happened in our community, and I think
Like an umbrella, and each of those compartments actually can become their own.
and people don't quite understand that folks have come into our community and they've taken our knowledge, they've taken our food practices, how we prepare our food, and they've gentrified them. And so I'm
Yes.
glad you've approached that and you're telling the stories, because you can't separate the food from the stories. You just can't. And so I'm delighted to hear that.
One of the things that we do is we try to create.
Go ahead. So what else are you doing to make sure people understand the history of the food and why you prepare the foods that you're doing? Can you hear me?
I don't. For example, in the food business, when we tie the African culture into the Gullah Geechee culture. 1 second, we having technical difficulties.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened with the microphone.
We can hear you.
But what was the question that you asked?
So what else, what other things are you doing to promote the food and the culture and the seasonings?
So I created a market, a mobile Gullah Geechee market, where we travel around in the 4 states as well as around the in the immediate area, so that we can actually bring a market to people. And my market actually brings other vendors. So people who make baskets, so people who make dolls, so people who make quilts, things like that are now brought to their attention, so people can actually see a taste of Gullah in its full self. So a taste of Gullah, most people confuse it for just food, but a taste of Gullah is a taste of the Gullah Geechee culture. So it's all aspects. So that's the singing, that's the culture that comes around the quilting, the storytelling. That's the culture that comes around the hidden information, the agriculture, the medicinal, the spiritual, and all that ties together. So a lot of people don't realize that when we talk about a taste of Gullah, we're not just talking about one aspect. It's like a lot of people don't pay attention when we're talking about a Gullah culture. We're not talking about just the Africans that were enslaved that came over here. We actually are talking about the Sea Island natives who were here originally. They play a major part because their culture and African culture was absorbed together for survival. And therefore, that's where you get your Gullah Geechee people.
I don't think enough people actually realize that. And I mean, I knew that, but even yesterday, I believe I was reading someplace exactly what you just said, that Gullah Geechee is a blending of African, Native American, mostly African, Native American, and European cultures to make the Gullah Geechee. You see it in the language, but you also see it in how we cook our food. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. How do I get in touch with you if I want to have you come to my community and do your mobile services? How do we get in touch with you?
Well, you can go on my website and click book a service. And when you click book a service, it'll open up a comment section, and you just write in the information, and it'll go straight to my email. And then I will respond to you within 48 hours. And then we will discuss what you want, so I can come in and we can bring something into the communities. This year coming up, I really want to touch into those surrounding communities inside Georgetown, the communities inside Edisto, the communities where the people still live, but they are a little bit disheartened away from their own culture. They don't know who they are. When I had my lecture a couple of weeks ago one of the things that was taught to me was bring the lectures to the people.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who have the hidden secrets on the spices that you don't know, because they pass those down within a family, or they the ones who have the information, some oral history that's not in the books, because it's passed down inside their families generationally. So it's time to take all this information, the marketing that we have been doing, and take it into the communities. I want to set up at different community centers. I want to go into the Guatemala Community Center, or I want to go into the PD Community Center. I want to talk to the people,
So
because that's where the information is.
on October on October 29th of this year, well, there's two things. I'm having the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference this coming Saturday, the 15th, at the Howard Center in Georgetown. We're also having in Georgetown Tour de Plantersville, which is a bike ride in on the historic Plantersville Scenic Byway. And that's at the Plantersville School. Did you know about that one?
Yes, I actually have plans to do Tour de Plantersville.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Glad to hear that. And then next year we're having the Harriet Tubman Journey to Freedom Monument coming to Georgetown for 3 months from August 1st through October 31st, 2023. We are actually in the planning stages now. We do plan on having a vendor village, artist village. Would love to have you there and be part of it. And actually, we're going to do 3 months of activities. So at our planning committee meeting and at our stakeholder meeting, I'll make sure that we get you on the list as a possible participant.
Yeah.
Because we got 3 months of activities. We want it won't be obviously activities every day, but we definitely want you to be a part of the activities that are happening in
Yeah,
Georgetown.
that's great, because that opens up opportunities for those vendors who actually do not have access to these types of events, who are the ones they're working so much at home or at their jobs that they don't have time to come out to the markets on a regular basis. So this gives us the opportunity. This is why I want to go into these communities to talk to the people who are actually trying to do things. And I met a lady months ago, and she said, my daughter told me that you are looking for a doll maker. And she gave me a flyer of all these dolls that she makes. And then, because her grandmother's grandmother taught her how to make dolls, so she actually have been making dolls, but they sit in her doll room at her house. I said, let's bring that out. Let's give that opportunity to the world.
Oh, she needs to get in touch with me too, because with the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail website, it's going to focus on the oyster harvesters, the fishermen and women, the shrimpers and the crabbers, but it's also going to focus on anything to do with water and the waterways. Because as you know, our ancestors were brought here in enslavement because of their knowledge of how to control the water and manage the land to grow the rice, the indigo, the sea island cotton, the sugar canes and all that. And they brought all of those handcrafts with them. They brought everything. I noticed that you do foraging. They brought that knowledge with them to make things and create things. And so we want that to also be reflected on the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail website. So definitely need to be in touch with some of these folks who are making dolls and quilts and etc. So wow, that's wonderful what you're doing. We're showing pictures of the work that you've done in the areas that you work in. Beautiful pictures. So tell me a little bit about your foraging. I noticed that's one of your services, book of service, the foraging.
Yes, so I want to say thank you on the seafood industry that you're tapping into, because that is my family's background, and we live on the water, and we've been harvesting and doing fishermen seafood work for a long time. foraging, because we come from a agriculture and a seafood farming market.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how to do a lot of medicinal work, as well as going into these wild forests and learning how to identify medicine as food. Okay, because there's one time there was no grocery stores. People used to go into the woods to get their foods. There are different types of greens, not just collard greens, not just mustard greens, because these things were actually cultivated. Some greens are not cultivated, like ramps. There are other types of sorrel that are out there that we can eat that have more vitamin C in them and more potassium to help lower the blood pressure in the body. So there's a lot of things that's out there. I teach people if they want to come. We do fall harvesting. We actually have a fall harvesting session coming up in about a month from now, right at the end of October and the beginning of November, right as the season crosses over. South Carolina has an extended season, so you can get your fall harvest early and late. So what we do is we teach people to come on out. We walk through the woods. We identify some plants. We give them an opportunity to harvest some things to take home and do their research on some of these plants that they harvest, because a lot of these harvests they need. One day, as we can see with the government going in the direction that they're going, the grocery store bills are getting higher and higher.
Mm-hmm.
And soon, if we won't be able to afford buying all these vegetables and foods that from the grocery stores, we need to know how to go out into the woods and to identify the nutritional foods that we need and bring them back home. And we need to learn how to access a lot of these recipes from the old, and that way we can bring them forward. One thing I tell people is we are known for collard greens, but actually they never used to eat collard greens by itself. It was always a mixture of greens. So it was collard greens mixed with mustard greens or mustard and turnip greens. And technically, it was actually just called greens. Okay, so you could actually know that they brought in a lot of these foraged greens as well. But when the Gullah culture became marketable and people were misappropriating our culture, they only learned what the master only learned, which is not all the information. Like we can always say, we do field peas and rice and call it hoppin' john. But when someone says hoppin' john, they're actually looking for black eyed peas and
Mm-hmm.
rice, and they don't cook it the same way. It's not soaked the night before. It doesn't turn the rice red. Things like that. So there's a lot of steps that's missing. So these are some of the things that I teach you when it comes down to the fall foraging and the foraging session. We actually do 3 sessions a year. We do the spring foraging, we do the fall foraging, and then we do winter foraging, because you have to know how to identify winter foods. This is going into learning how to identify the barks, the roots, the things that we need that the world has actually been harvesting and storing for us so that we can harvest them. This is the perfect time to pick dandelion root, right at the beginning of winter time. It's the perfect time to pick dandelion root. Dandelion root is important because we need it to cleanse our bodies, get rid of those toxins so we can be ready for the spring. So
So
I'm sorry, I can talk a long time about these things because I get so
actually, I find it
passionate.
fascinating. So I'm cool with it. I find it fascinating with the foraging. Like I was going to ask you, let me say this first. My mother used field peas. I didn't know people use black-eyed peas. My mother used field peas in the hoppin' john. And the black-eyed peas thing, I was an adult before I realized people were using black-eyed peas, and it was very confusing to me because it just didn't seem right, And Then with the dandelion weeds, I was just telling somebody over the weekend, I was talking to so many people. I said, the dandelion, you can use every piece of the dandelion, but
Every
but
piece.
corporations have convinced us that the dandelion is a weed, so we could buy the toxic chemicals and kill the dandelion, and then we gotta go get treated for cancer because of the chemical we use on the dandelion, which we can use every piece. That is literally our abundance, part of the abundance given to us by the earth to cleanse us, to feed us and cleanse us and everything. I said we got it backwards in many ways. So I'm fascinated by the dandelion. So my question to you is, obviously when you're foraging, you can then identify where the dandelion root is. How can you describe that for us? How do you identify the dandelion root without the dandelion flower being apparent?
Oh, well, you don't have to identify the flower, but it is the leaf that you need to identify.
Okay.
If you identify the dandelion leaf, then you can identify the rest of the plant, which is located down in the grounds, and then you just need to know how to dig and find that, because you would have to learn how to identify dandelion roots, and actually it can get very long. It's a tap root. It's a tap root, so it can grow for a long period of time, and it can grow very deep. The same as burdock root.
It's also very important about those roots that they grow deep. They actually hold the soil in from
Yes.
erosion and stuff, and people don't realize that it's not only
Yes,
a plant
that's
that
just
can
like
give
why
us,
they shouldn't take down these trees.
that's we got a whole nother conversation about that, taking down the trees and everything, because that happened in my neighborhood, and we still feel the impact of a situation that happened about 6 years ago, when they cut down trees, and it changed the entire flow of the water in my neighborhood when they took down the trees. But the dandelion, and I mentioned the dandelion and the deepness of the root holding the soil together, it's because it actually in the Midwest, the grass of the plains in the Midwest, the real grass of the Midwest, it grows 8 to 12 feet deep because it's actually holding the soil together. And that's one of the reasons, if you remember your history, in the 1930s, they had the Dust Bowl. It's because they pulled up all those grasses and they planted non-native plants that couldn't hold the soil together. So it eventually dried up and created the Dust Bowl. It's the same thing now with the dandelion. We don't understand that these deep-rooted trees and plants hold the soil together. That's an impact of climate change. Also, when the water's coming in and it's not being absorbed up into these roots, or the soil's not being held together. Because in many places in the low country, we are saturated in water. We sit in water. That's what the low country is. You're low. And that means you're below sea level. So you have to have these things to hold everything together. That's part of the whole cycle of nature, if you want to say that, or the cycle of life. And then the dandelion itself, you can eat every part of the dandelion, plays a part in our diet.
Yes, yes, yes. And there are, excuse me, when we talk about the Gullah Geechee culture, and we go into talking about the Sea Island Native and the Native American culture, they lived on the land. All right. So they learned how to harvest different plants and things like that. Now, some people don't live in the same areas, and these plants continue to just grow and grow and grow, and some have turned into trees. Most people are not aware that we have persimmons trees, natural fruits that grow, different types of nuts that grow here that we don't know of. We just know of pecans. We look at walnuts, but there are different types of nuts that grow out there that we actually need, and these help cleanse our bodies. And we wonder why some of these older people live so healthy for such a long time, It's because they have already been eating directly out of clean soil, and these soils, they is replenished by the earth. So, and we put so much chemicals in our things. And even when we say organic nowadays, organic doesn't mean without pesticides. Organic can be organic pesticides being placed into the ground. And people need to understand how to live and eat fresh foods naturally. So that's what we do when we do harvesting. It's basically teaching the people how to identify the plants as well. And I'll send you home with a recipe. Believe you me, I'll send you home with a recipe. And you can always contact me and ask questions like, hey, I tried to cook this greens. I didn't know what I'm doing. And then I'll tell you how to mix it with some things to get it to the where you can taste that palate, get it in your palate the right way, so that you can start feeding it to your family, because that's the only way the kids will know is if we start feeding them the healthy stuff so that they can get healthy as they grow older. They the future.
I was going to ask you if you provide a recipe or something like how to cook what you forage, because it's one thing to go get what you forage, it's another to know what to do with it. So did you say you have a recipe book, or you just provide a recipe?
Oh, I have lots of recipes.
Are you going to do a book?
I actually have been doing recipe research on various different foods because I've been interested in how do you eat this stuff. Like I learned how to identify different types of mushrooms. I got my mushroom foraging license now. So I've learned how to identify types of different mushrooms, but I didn't know how to eat them, because I didn't grow up eating mushrooms, and mushrooms is so it's a plant and a fungus together that it can be replaced meat in your diet. It gives you so much protein, so and people don't know how to cook it or any of that information, but I definitely have recipes so I can help people out. One of my goals is to put out a foraging recipe book,
Oh, that's going to be wonderful.
Eating off the land.
That's going to be wonderful. I ate 3 separate dishes last week with mushrooms, the portobello mushrooms. I just had a taste for it. And so I mixed it with onions, bell pepper, seasoning, and I just sauteed it.
Okay.
It was a whole meal. That was it, and the flavor and everything, I'm good. It was, because it's like a meat. It's like a protein, a good meat substitute. And you get that. It does not taste like meat. And we got to be careful. People are told, eat tofu because it tastes like chicken. No, tofu is tofu. The mushroom is a mushroom, but it's a good, healthy substitute for red meat. But you get that texture, you get that flavor. It's actually, and it was, I ate like 3 dishes, and I got some leftovers in there. I'll probably eat later tonight and finish it off. But it's kind of like it was a spaghetti sauce without the spaghetti. But it was pretty good. So I'm glad. So you're really looking at putting a foraging recipe book together. I think that's an excellent idea. I'm looking forward to that. What's our timeline on that? We're going to hold you to it.
It's going to be by the end of next year. I say that because we have actually compiled a lot of these recipes, and I have my little manuscript together. And, sometimes things get lost on the computer because you get mixed up doing other things. But like I said, so since we are now coming out of the fog of 2020, COVID, 2019, everybody got shut down back in the operation. I think we actually, since we're going to be putting out our calendar of events in November for the next up and coming year, and then we'll actually have everything going. These are one of the things that's going to be out there listed. The Gullah Geechee foraging recipe book is also going to be out there.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to. And I want to go out foraging with you also. I'm going to have to book a day. I'm going to put it on my calendar so I can go out with you. And it'll have to be 3 separate times because you said winter, spring, fall.
So we want to have the event booked and ready for everyone the second week of November or the third week of November, because the first week of November is actually Fet Gede, which is a spiritual holiday. And so because it's a spiritual holiday, during you talk about a lot of the Gullah Geechee culture, spirituality is one of them. And it is a combination of celebrating the dead, basically on, and it falls on November 1st and 2nd. So we want to actually be available to the people after that, because that holiday is very important. We actually will not be doing anything in the States. We're going to be traveling outside to Atlanta to partner up with a couple of other families, and we're going to be commemorating a 100-year-old cemetery that was unearthed down in outside of the Atlanta area. It has a lot of African bodies in it. So what we want to do is do that celebration for them, because like I said, a Taste of Gullah is a plethora of things. It's not just food, and part of the culture is spirituality. So we want to really be into helping the people move that boat along as well. So we definitely going to be posting up on Facebook and Instagram is where we normally post things on Instagram, Facebook, as well as on the website. We'll be out there, and I'm very vocal, so we get into a lot of the media when it comes down to getting people involved in things. And I really want to teach the people, because we have to teach ourselves, because the truth of the matter is no one else is going to teach us. We don't know what's going to happen until the bulldozers show up in front of our front doors, unless we right at the table. If we, as a man in California told me, if you're not at the table, you on the table.
That's right. And this, when you post your information, are we following each other on Instagram, the Gullah Geechee Chamber? I can't remember. If we not, we need to follow each other, so as you post your stuff, we can share it with our folks also. And that includes Facebook. Make sure we're following each other so we can make sure that we spread the word when you post your schedule and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's make sure we do that. So what else do we need to know today regarding Taste of Gullah?
I just wanted to let people know that we are an events planning company, and that what we do is the main attraction is to create cultural awareness in events. So that's also, if you're having weddings out there and you want to add a little bit of Gullah culture to your wedding, not jump in the room or anything, but more specified, then you can just call us. We are open to discussing some information about weddings. Our goal is to teach people, and everybody, not just us as the Gullah Geechee people, but everybody needs to be aware, because when it comes down to preserving the history, we need everybody on the forefront to preserve the history so they can know, because a lot of people who have been misappropriating the culture, some people really don't realize that they've been misappropriating the culture because it's been going on for a while and it's been passed down. And what we want everybody to know is we do special events. So catering too, but we are a special events company. And I just want people to know we are the only cultural events company in the Low Country.
Very good, because I love that you're educating through the event planning, through the food, through the foraging. It's all about education and understanding the culture. And you're right. Some people don't even realize that they're appropriating the culture. They just see something and they run with it, not realizing that there's an entire culture involved. So it's wonderful to see that you're doing that work, and we will continue to support that work. And one thing that we've done as an organization is actually call out the cultural appropriation that's very apparent. Those who are not operating in good faith, we call out and say that's cultural appropriation. We do recognize that there's some people who just don't know. They just don't know. They see something and they think of it as Low Country, but Low Country does not exist without Gullah Geechee. And people need to understand that. So when you see something, because CNN last year ran a CNN travel article about New Year's Eve traditions, and they called Hoppin' John Low Country Hoppin' John. It's not Low Country Hoppin' John. Hoppin' John is a Gullah Geechee cultural dish. That's a cultural dish, and that's a gentrification of that dish when you say Low Country Hoppin' John. It is no such thing as Low Country Hoppin' John.
There is no such thing as Low Country Hoppin' John. They can say it's Low Country Black Eyed Peas and rice, though.
That's right. That's right.
But Hoppin' John is not made with black eyed peas,
and they didn't know. And then the picture, I don't have time to go look for it right now, but I do have a snapshot of the picture. It's the rice, and then the black eyed peas sitting on top of the rice.
Oh,
that's not even the way Gullah Geechee cook it. It's rice and field peas are embedded
together.
It's one dish. It's a one dish meal.
It's synonymous with the one pot dish.
It was real pretty. It had the pretty rice, and it had the black eyed peas sitting on top, and it had the spring onions chopped up, maybe add a little green. It was real pretty, but it was not Gullah Geechee, and that was the implication. And wonderful article and everything, but that goes to just a lack of understanding. So it's wonderful that you're out here doing the work that you're doing. And I'm just so happy to have you on to support and also to inform people of tasteofgullah.com. We've had the website at the bottom the entire show. Go to the website. You can schedule your foraging and other educational sessions. You can look at the pictures. You can find out more about their services that they are providing and book them. And y'all, I mean, this is what we're about. Letting folks know who we are, the very rich culture that we have, and everything.
Very rich,
very rich, foundational, and evolutionary culture of the Gullah Geechee. Giovanni, give us some last words. What else do you want us to know as we close out the show today?
Well, I am a protector of the Gullah Geechee, so I'm an advocate through and through, 100%. So you shall see me in many of the forefronts. I've been on political avenues. I'm there because we have to stop people from destroying our culture. That is the main thing. And what you see is what you get. I'm very vocal. If you need me to speak in the Queen's English, I will definitely do. But I have preferred to speak my natural language with my Gullah Geechee twang to it, but does not take away from the intelligence that lies inside these brains. I just want people to realize that. And I go in front of any political avenue, just like you said, there are people out here who are taking advantage of our culture on purpose because they have an agenda, and we have to stop that agenda. So that's why we have the branding of a Gullah Geechee. And we are a Taste of Gullah because of that. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate that. And if y'all are interested in some spiritual stuff, you have to deal with me on the spiritual note. Just look at me up. I am at Hadatuno Geechee L, the spiritual guide as well. So thank you for the opportunity to express us on Small Business Sundays.
Thank you, Giovanni. We're glad that you came on and brought it on, especially after Hurricane Ian here in Georgetown. We actually still dealing with some of it, helping folks out. That's a whole nother show. I did it on Spotlight. Wednesday I did a special gathering place and we talked about Hurricane Ian. So y'all need to go look at that show because the response within our community needs to be much better moving forward. But we're going to work on that.
I definitely will check that out.
Yeah, and we appreciate you coming in because it's healing. When we talk about our culture, it's healing to see the work that's going on, to hear about the work people are doing. So we're delighted that you came on and shared with us. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you later. Thank you, Giovanni.
All right.
We'll see you later. And y'all, that was Miss Giovanni Richardson with tasteofgullah.com. And as we end our show, I want to remind you that we have coming up this Saturday. Time has passed quickly. We've been out here talking about it, folks, and everything. But coming up this Saturday, October 15th, is the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference. You can go to eventbrite.com and register, or you could go to our website, GullahGeecheeFoundation.org, and register for the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference. It's a hybrid conference, virtually and in person. It's in person at the Howard Center, 1610 Hawkins Street in Georgetown, or you could also register virtual for the virtual showing. Now, if you come in person, you will get a complimentary Taste of Gullah lunch prepared by Donnie's Grill out of Bucksport community of South Carolina, and also the first 50 people to enroll and attend in person will receive a $25 gas gift card, and we will also provide free babysitting service. So y'all come on out to the Gullah Geechee Environmental Energy Conference. Go ahead and get registered through Eventbrite, or go to GullahGeecheeFoundation.org to also register. And as we mentioned earlier, we are so looking for folks. If you have been impacted by Hurricane Ian, you may not be aware help is available. If you know anyone who has suffered loss of electricity, wind, rain damage, roof damage, loss of food because of power outages, loss of medicine, maybe refrigerated medicine, and that the power outages, you lost that medicine and out of work because of Hurricane Ian, please check on your neighbors, family, and friends and have them contact the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce at 843-318-8644. That's 843-318-8644. We've been working with folks all week trying to get them back on a great path moving forward. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you for Giovanni Richardson for joining us from A Taste of Gullah. Wonderful show. I'm looking forward to joining her. We'll go foraging and the Gullah Geechee Seafood Trail that's coming in 2023. We're just so excited and looking forward to all of this happening around the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. Oh, and October 29th, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission is moving into new offices at the Reconstruction Era Center in Beaufort, South Carolina on Saturday, October 29th. We hope to see you there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Giovanni, and we will see you this is Sunday. We will see you this Wednesday at 4:00. We'll see you at the Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference this Saturday, October 15th. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.